here with Treasure Farms. I'm a habitat specialist with Whitetail Habitat Solutions. I hope you guys are having a great day and weekend. We're out here on the farm just for a quick little trip because have some clients nearby, going to another one tomorrow, and then I'm gonna wrap up this trip and go home. But it's nice that when I'm not too far from my own farm, I can wrap up and then head over here maybe for an hour or so before it gets dark and whatnot and dinner time. So I'm gonna be checking out the plots today. We're about to get dumped on with rain, which is awesome. We really need it, as many of you know, are in the same boat. Check out our buckwheat, see how it's looking. I got some solar panels and a couple other things out here, which is nice to test those out. I haven't used solar panels too much. I've had very good luck with external battery packs and having them run throughout the whole season. But this time, I'm gonna throw some solar out there to see if that does the same, now that many of you know batteries are getting super expensive. So I think after a year, maybe two at the most, these will probably have paid for themselves, especially if they last for a little while. So I'm gonna go back specifically to some of the areas deeper in the woods where maybe I don't wanna be really back there as much. Even though it's summer, I don't care quite too much right now, but even later, to do batteries and stuff, we'll put some solar on there and hopefully it'll eliminate some of that. I want to show you guys some of the buckwheat growing. We're having, minimal rain. There's definitely some weeds. You can kind of see we're in the area where I have some of my trees going. I think I already told you guys we had nice luck with Whitetail Hill chestnuts, and they're sending us a couple more trees because of their grow guarantee, so that's kind of cool. So those, for any of you getting them in the fall, for our zone, we will be getting them in September. So really the only time I will be out here, I know this is a little ways away, in September will be one, to layer my rye and to possibly put a few new trees in right here so they get those fall rains. They'll be good for the next year, and kind of just mine as well if I'm going to be, walking in certain parts anyway. But being out here is the very end and is not too intrusive into my property, so I'm okay with that. Sorry, this is a foldable saw if I'm waving it in at you, in case I need to trim some for cameras or whatever. But so I'm happy with this. I'm happy with how it looks. Again, we're going to get dumped on with rain, so the buckwheat is going to be looking good. Definitely some weeds going. I know I talk all the time about buckwheat and getting ready for your plots, especially for those of you in ag areas or that have glyphosate resistant weeds. But this is looking pretty good. So based on what we just saw together, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna go on to the back. What else are we looking at, guys? So buckwheat growth, right? Buckwheat, we have a 6 to 8 week grow time frame. So here in this zone, southern Michigan and a lot of even Michigan in general, we will be looking to plant our fall food in mid to early August. So we'll be kind of getting ready for that. For those of you that think maybe after a few more weeks your buckwheat stand does not look very good and you still want to plan for an early to mid August planting, if you have too many weeds coming up and they are glyphosate resistant, you need to get a kill on those before you put your fall food down. If you don't, your food is not going to grow well with weeds, guys. It's not. I have some here. The buckwheat will grow a little quicker than some of the other seeds I'll plant in my fall blends, but really any way you spin it, we got to have mostly a weed-free plot for the tonnage per acre that we're really looking for, and we're doing all this work, so we might as well. So being that if you have to spray glyphosate and 2,4-D before our fall food, we need to start that a couple weeks ahead of time, especially if the weeds are going to be 2, 3, 4 feet tall. You got to spray it, then maybe mow it, get rid of some of this debris a little bit. I mean, some of it can act as a thatch layer, but get rid of potentially some of it. If you don't have equipment, that's going to be somewhat difficult. So you need to do the spraying early enough so that that stuff can start to disintegrate. You can go in, let that 2,4-D residual wear off, a couple weeks to let the mulch and the debris die off, and then get your fall food in and you're off to the races. If you have to get some chain link fence, a drag, anything to cover up those seeds, you might need that depending on what type of seed you're planting. So we'll be hashing all that out as we get closer to the food plots. I'll be going over what I'm planting. If it's something you guys want to follow along with, please hit that subscribe button and Sorry, it's a little windy. And we're gonna go through our whole process like we do every year, any changes that we're making, all that good stuff. This is a little new for us out here with the trees, and I'm gonna do some cut throughs, some of the more creative stuff to kind of push the deer into certain areas and give them the path of least resistance. But right now we're gonna go and get these solar panels set up. All right guys, we're back in some of the cutting areas. If you can remember, this one had the opening over there in the mesh that we had to refix with some zip ties. If you can see right there, the willows and the poplar are still hanging on. The willows have grown a little bit. I think the poplars have maybe put on a couple more leaves, but I was worried about them dying. It looks like hopefully with some more rain and stuff, they're still going to take off. Kind of hard with all the weeds to see some of the smaller ones on the edges, but we will see if those make it as well. Otherwise, maybe we can add some next year. So quick little update. It looks like based on what I can see so far, the rest are looking good. Check out this nice Austrian pine right there. That's a few years old, looking good. All right, on to the next thing. All right, we got our first solar panel on there for those of you who are interested, and hopefully saving some money from spending our salaries on batteries every year. This should work, but I will keep you posted. I only have one brand, Cuddyback right now. Don't have anything else, so this is all I can really talk about, but I will keep you posted regardless. Our mock scrape fell down, and a blackberry has taken its place. So another thing I have talked about briefly, if you reference any of my bedding videos from December, January, and talking about, I think the specific one we were talking about, bedding pockets, diversity pockets, and then planting some, which I talk about on a lot of our habitat visits, ways to get it so that if you're not gonna fence it all, that the deer won't browse on it all the time. And I wanna show you, see this here. This was some of my extra 6-foot cuttings. This is a poplar, and you can see that, we might have some browsing. Actually, these leaves don't look like they've been browsed, but what I've done here is I've stuck this cutting in between some branches and sticks. So this was some edge feathering that I did in this little pocket, and you can see some of the hinges. Some of it's still growing, some of it's dead. They weren't all hinges because there were actually quite a few trees in this little area, but wanted everything to kind of grow up and just be an added benefit of cover, especially with food on the other side. So they kind of have to go through it over to the other end. Anyway, I stuck these cuttings in between the limbs so that it's not easily accessible for a deer to walk right up and nibble on it. There's kind of this stuff in the way. And of course there's other weeds, but we know firsthand from what I've shown you the last couple of videos from where the net fell down and my pockets where I planted the cuttings, that one, the deer, they mauled, there were like no leaves. If you go back just a video or two, there were no leaves on those. Now they're coming back. These, however, have never been fenced. They're in the open, and then I see two more. Oh, there's one on the other side of that branch. I don't know if you can probably see that on the phone, but if you look right there, that's one. And there's just a couple along this, and they all have some leaves on the top. They look to be, I see some over there too. So would guess I'm close to 100% success rate in sticking some of these cuttings in down trees in areas that the deers can't readily get available. So for you guys that, maybe at the end of summer after oak wilt and stuff like that, you guys are gonna be doing some fall plantings, or, come around to next year, you do your cuttings and come back in the spring and do your spring plantings, whether it's pine, hybrid poplar, hybrid willow, all kinds of good stuff, silky willow, dappled willow, sticking these in. Try and do that. And if you're in a high pressure area where you have a bunch of deer, nothing would make it, see if that'll help. So far, I am pleased with how they seem to be coming out with the lack of browse. I love it when you just come up on some turkeys and they're just like so shocked and just putter off.